Hi, I'm Josh.
And I'm Layla.
And this is Jayla in the Morning. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between a contract marriage and a covenant marriage.
Yeah. This is actually a special episode for our single friends and some of our friends out there that are affected by divorce. Maybe you've been affected by divorce, considering divorce, or just experiencing some turbulence in your current marriage, that this may add some clarity to where you're presently at and maybe where God wants to take you in your healing journey inside your marriage.
Yeah, so you said affected by divorce, and I'll be honest, I was. And in hindsight, I can look back on it and say that it was a contract marriage. It was me kind of pushing my own will on God. I mean, I even thought that I got confirmation from God because I went to scriptures that I interpreted as him saying yes.
This was before you eloped, right? If I remember? Okay.
Yeah.
Just getting into the backstory a little bit.
I mean, there was a lot of red flags.
Right.
And I pushed past all of those. And I decided, well, I'm going forward with this, and this is the way that I'm going to be able to make it happen, is by eloping and just getting it done now, because of all the circumstances were making it so that it wasn't really it wasn't working out.
You weren't having peace about it.
So I made it work out.
Yeah. And it can be confusing with things like make your yes, yes, and your no, no, when it's a huge, massive life decision that fortunately for you ended up with a byproduct of some amazing children.
Oh man, yeah, I love my boys. I would never, ever trade them for anything. So
I can't have children, so that works out.
It does, yeah. I mean, God can still bless you even if you have joined with your partner in a contract marriage. And there is still a way out. And then we're going to talk about that too at some point.
Can we talk a little bit about what happened inside a contract? Like if we were writing a contract, and what did that flesh out like for you in your contract marriage? What did that look like with negotiations or things that you felt like you had to concede inside that marriage?
Right. I'm definitely going to answer that question, but I just want to clarify just what I said in that a way out. I don't mean to leave. I mean to convert it into a covenant.
Oh.
So we'll talk about that after a bit. But the things that I did in my marriage was, everything became a negotiation. Even the start of the marriage was kind of with an understanding that we were going to go to a different place, and that was just to be honest, Florida, right? It was we're going to Florida.
I'll marry you if you take me to Florida.
Basically, that was kind of like an understanding, right?
Oh, all right. Wow.
Whether it it wasn't written down or anything,
but it was part of a negotiation.
It was kind of like an understanding between us that was going to happen, and I just was lonely as well too, and
loneliness is really tough. Don't give up if you are feeling lonely. Please, there's hope.
Yeah, I had been devastated not too long before that by another relationship that wasn't God honoring, and I wanted a good Christian woman, and I thought that that was all I really needed. I didn't look outside of those characteristics. In that I didn't ask God, if she was truly compatible with me, and I
just kind of forcing
just went with it because
this is what I want.
Right, I was only focused on that one thing, and not the all the other things. Because there's, as you know, if you're married, there's a lot of things that go into making a relationship healthy.
I was just thinking about, there's a scripture that says, the heart is deceitful above all else, desperately wicked, who can know it? Yeah. And I think sometimes in the world, they say, follow your heart, in the context of romantic relationships, when the heart is desperately wicked and who can know it? It's not really as successful as a guide as hearing God's voice or just the leading of the Holy Spirit, not just our mind, will, and emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you may have noticed that your marriage has come, you may have started out better, but whatever the circumstance is, whether what started at the beginning or ended up getting there, if your marriage is in a spot where you're doing something for your partner, expecting something in return, that's really not healthy.
Like, I'll do this if you do this.
Right.
Instead of, I do this because I love you and I want your life to be better.
Mm-hmm. Look, in hindsight, I can see that I do this, you give me that routine just really leads to destruction of the marriage. It leads to destruction of love, and it causes you to resent your partner when they don't follow through with what you believe they're supposed to be doing. So, it could be they had a tough day, it could be all different circumstances, but when your partner stops giving you the thing that you've negotiated for, then you stop giving them what you've negotiated for, and then you really separate from each other. And I'm not going to do this for them if they're not going to do that for me, and it just further and further separates you.
Polarizes worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we in a good spot to kind of start to talk about the covenant?
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I wanted to highlight too is that with contract marriages in our culture today, the world is saying you can have a contract with anybody. You can have a contract with any person you pick. Some people want to even have a contract marriage with the pet. I mean, that's how strange the world is right now. But as we kind of close the loop on contract marriages, is that even though we have a contract, or you may have stood before a judge or a church or a priest or a pastor, whatever, that there is a very spiritual component to having a covenant with a partner that is brought together by God. A covenant is something that we make with God, not just with person and the legal system. And being willing to be patient when you're single, wanting to be paired up with someone, not just for the sake of being paired up with a person, but to be with the person that's God's will for you, not just your will. And the covenant marriage is all throughout the Bible, that there were matchmakers involved. There were, people that were sent out to get confirmation of the right pairing. So do you want to talk a little bit about your covenant marriage and, what's your experience as you contrast between that? What did the covenant, like what helped you know that this was a covenant versus a contract?
Oh, good question. So, when I realized, that I had kind of forced my own will on the situation, and it was being forcibly taken away from me, I said, okay, well.
Meaning the divorce?
Yeah, the divorce. I was still.
Didn't have a choice.
I was still trying to fight, but it didn't work out. And
now by fight, you mean to keep it together.
To keep it together. I wanted my will. I wanted it to stay.
Right.
Because I come from a divorced family,
right.
And that was
didn't want to inflict that on
ripping me apart and inflicting, childhood wounds were tying my stomach up in knots. And I thought, I do not want to do to my kids what happened to me.
Right.
And that was very deep-seated pain that I had to get over because I didn't have a choice, and it was happening whether I,
when you were a kid,
liked it or not.
Or
both.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
It couldn't have happened any
Way
different
to clarify.
when I was a kid, but also, when the marriage came to an end, there came a point where I realized that there was nothing else I could do to save it.
Right.
So I accepted what was happening and just started really praying and asking God, what now? What do I do now? What is it that you're calling me to? And I said, I really do believe that I am better when I am partnered, and that I was not meant to be alone. That much like Adam, I need an Eve, that it's not good for me to be alone. And that's different for everybody. Some people, it is good for them to be alone.
That's a good point.
But for me, it was not. And so I asked for someone that would be an Eve to me, that would be completely compatible with me. That
Can I say something on it?
yeah.
Did you finish on that thought?
Well, I got more to say, but go ahead.
Well, just to the single people, to honor that there are some people that aren't meant for marriage or coupleship, and to honor the singles, our friends that really want to remain autonomous or just really having their own singledom, that is also very biblical, that it's for those of us that are burning with passion to be paired up, where I was very single, very lonely, threw myself into work, even though there was a longing inside of me for the mate of God's choosing. And I did date and I did just try to figure things out on my own. But knew that I didn't want to be in a marriage until it was a covenant. And so to just honor, and I like how you did say that, for people that feel led to be single, that we honor that and we bless that. And that's so important to give yourself permission to remain single if that's what gives you the most peace. But what Josh was talking about was he knew he wanted his counterpart, and there was something intuitive inside of him, even during his divorce, that was like, no, I'm going to honor this. I have someone for you, even though it was so terribly painful.
It was, and I expected it to take a lot longer than it did, but God knew that that I needed expediency.
I was sick of waiting for him.
Well, you needed expediency too.
Well, something like that. I waited almost 40 years.
Yeah, this makes it extra special to me that that you did wait, and that for you to know as well that you heard from God that I was your no matter what. And what I heard after a night of just talking with Layla and going on a walk with her, when I went home that night, I clearly heard from God that this is the answer to your prayer, and this is how much I love you. And I started weeping. Is I just knew it. I could feel it. I felt like His presence come over me, and I heard that in my spirit.
So be encouraged that God will confirm to you the mate of His choosing in His time. I just love the story because I want to encourage people that are viewing this to really know that God knows you. He knows you so deeply, and He knows how to get your person to you. No matter where in the world you are, He knows how to bring people together. There's nothing like it. Just to kind of clarify, what is a covenant marriage? Like, what does that actually look like? And I think back to Adam and Eve, that how do we know what that marriage ceremony was like? Like, who witnessed the documents? Was there like an animal that put their paw print or something?
And I don't think they had rings.
Right. Yeah. We don't even know if they had clothing on, right? Yeah. So, how would viewers know what is a covenant marriage?
I think what
makes it a covenant?
Right. I think they know that they're not forcing it.
Right. It happens very naturally, and God provides for everything.
Yeah, and you're allowing those flags to let you know, like whether it's green flags, good to look for green flags for sure. But if it's a really important, to you and who you are, red flag, to not just brush those aside, and to really to hear, whether the universe is telling you yes or telling you no.
Well, and that's a good point, where we had confirmations like that the relationship is not meant to be secret. It was in the light. That's something you can notice in a covenant pairing, is that there's no shame around it. There's confirmation from friends and family member. You'll see people like visibly relax, like, wow, this is finally coming together. Not, when people are trying to force something, you can feel it. You can feel it financially. You can feel it in the planning. Like for us, when we knew, things just naturally unfolded. Just the financing, the timing, the venue, all those little pieces that come together, whether we had we do have a piece of paper, a marriage certificate or whatever, but we also got clear with our counseling and spiritual direction from people that were going to be a part of our ceremony that we also needed peace with, that we were on the right track. We had a checks and balances, if you will, with friends and family members around us. I think at the time you were in a men's group. And you were talking to them and you were getting feedback and you were, we had sounding boards with people. Josh even talked to my spiritual parents and said, can I have your blessing? That there's these traditional things that were woven into us having peace, but there's unmistakable provision and things coming together when it is blessed by God and His pairing, that things will happen very organically without having to try to force an issue, whether even it's colors or flowers or whatever, or future planning. Say, hey, how do we see ourselves? Where do we see ourselves going? That when it's a covenant marriage and it's bound together by God's Spirit, there is a natural organic progression that God uses all those things together to make it the path smooth. Not easy, but make it smooth.
Yeah. So pay attention if one of those people point out something that maybe you didn't see.
Yeah. We need our blind spots checked, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another thing that helped confirm it for me too was that I could be myself completely around you, and I didn't have to work for your approval.
No.
I didn't have to be something that I wasn't in order to please you.
Right.
And that was really important.
Every now and then I'd like you to do a couple things, but that's just because you're different than me.
I love it though that your love language is match mine. And for people that don't know what that is, you can look it up, but like being able to show you love by doing things for you was something that's natural to me, and it just really flowed well.
Right.
Because if you are able to be yourself, because you're going to end up being yourself anyway down the road.
Good point. Yeah.
So if you're able to be yourself before you get married,
right, wholeheartedly,
that's a good sign.
You know that you're not trying to be guarded or something, because that's a sign of pain, shame, fear, and that it's not going to be easy to try to take those walls down if you force a connection that's not really meant by God.
Something also that really breathed life into knowing that you were the right one for me was that we were able to share with each other deep things about ourselves, to really feel known by each other.
Be known.
And then we still loved each other even though we knew those things.
Because we all have a past. I mean, we all have a past. Yeah. Whether it's 10 minutes in the past, 10 years, or, lots of pain in the past. We all got it.
Yeah.
And to be able to be safe enough in the context of relationship is a really important signal when you know that you're safe inside with the other person, when you divulge information, not that you're dumping or have to share everything, but when you share a little bit to be really clear with them who you are, what makes you you. And if your sharing is reciprocated and balanced is also a good sign that you have a level of connection that can be honored for a long-term relationship.
Yes, it's important to be open with each other. And I'd like to maybe move to an encouraging thing for people that are maybe feeling that they are in a contract marriage right now.
What a good way to land this plane.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That start doing things for your partner, for your spouse, without expecting something in return. Start speaking affirmations, things that are positive about your spouse.
Maybe things that you appreciate about them.
Exactly. Because that's what you're going to get, is what you speak. If you point out the negative, you're going to get more negative. But we want to point out the positive things. We want to point out the things that we like about our spouse. And then your spouse is going to continue, to do more of those things. And those things that maybe were annoying you are going to start to fade into the background, maybe even go away, because you are emphasizing what it is that brings you joy about your spouse, and that you really...
Or what used to bring you joy about your spouse.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, that you really appreciate from your spouse.
Because we can't change them. The only one we can change is ourselves. But that's a good point. We don't, when you are feeling stuck, that one thing that we encourage you to try is to build the other person up. Mm-hmm. Just build them up. Remember what you liked about them. And then if you feel completely in a dead end, like you don't know where to turn, there is nothing like a word of direction from God. So that whether you believe in God now or not, there's nothing like being in a dead end and just saying, so what? Now what?
Yes. And like you said, whether you believe in God or not, He's still created, and I believe, and whether you believe this or not, I believe the universe has certain rules to it. And when you speak positivity to your spouse, you will get more positivity.
That's true.
And when you do things for your spouse without expecting something in return, there is something really special about that causes more positivity in your relationship.
Right. We reap what we sow. We reap what we sow. And so sometimes, thankfully, because of the grace of God, that we've sown some pretty negative things, and that He can step in so that we don't have to reap some of those things. But I would just want to encourage you today that you're not stuck, you're not alone, and that there is hope no matter what. So whether you're single, whether you are affected by divorce, or you're just looking for some help in healing in your current situation, to look to what God has to say to you. You can look for some direction from the Bible, from prayer, but please don't give up. And when you're ready to experience a covenant marriage, like Josh said, it'll unfold for you. The universe, things just kind of line up when you're ready to give up your will for God's will. See what happens.
Till next time, like, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching.
All right. That was our special episode with Layla in the morning. So contract versus covenant marriage. And we'll see you next week in the next episode.
See ya.